most of the time we have these compulsive behaviors. This is really interesting. I'm going through a lot of things and I'm going back and forth here, but I have so much I want to say, and then of course I want to get to their shares, which I love. We have such fantastic people on this meeting sharing. And I just want to say, so I was listening and it was an expert there talking about, psychological problems. I guess a psychological expert or, a doctor, I don't know. So they were saying they had about a list of 20 different diseases they were talking about, that could be categorized like this and this could be categorized like that. And I'm saying to myself, every one of those things I could relate to. Every one of them. You know what I started to realize? And with our disease with compulsive and a compulsive person, the difference I started to realize that normal people get hungry, right? They have this emotion they want to eat. The body tells them that. Normal people at times would get upset about something. They get anxious and upset. But the difference is somebody like myself, I would take it to the extreme. I would catastrophize everything. So what I'm saying to you is I'm here listening to all of these illnesses. And if I really thought about it, if they said, look, hey, Bob, you really have a problem with your attention to different things and focusing, I would probably be the type I'd sit there and say, you're right, and think about it so much I couldn't concentrate on anything. Or like if we get upset, some people like the blues, they like the songs, the songs of blues. But no, we not only feel a little bit depressed or upset about something that happened in the past, or a lot of upset, but we choose to take it to the limit where we say, oh no, there's something really wrong with my thinking. And the same with the food. All of a sudden, when we get down on ourselves, that's where the problem is. When we're saying a diet, we're saying on a diet is, I have to resist this. Any emotions we have, whether it's the hunger. Look, hunger is, thoughts are just thoughts. What do you think hunger is? It's really most of the time for us. I mean, we're not starving to death for sure in cases of overeating, but we definitely have that comprehension that the ego is telling us, look, if I know how I'll be happy if you eat all of this food. I know how I'll be happy if you go out and be successful. I know how we'll be happy if you get this person to like you. And then we wonder, with all this desiring, we're suffering. We're suffering. And the same is directly related to our compulsion with eating, because we put ourselves down in guilt, shame, and remorse. The solution is, and it's telling us here in the promises, that we can have a whole different perception. And I read in There Is a Solution, that whole perception change. Again, I'm going to bring it up again, the water, having that clarity, having that delicious feeling, that clear water. Again, those other drinks have like 1,200, 15, enough calories for one day. And you're eating all of that sugar. It does take a while for your palate to change. But this alone, this perception change, this spiritual awakening. People always say, what's a spiritual awakening? I'm telling you right now, if you have and you understand the truth in what I'm saying, you're spiritually awoken. Because in step 6 and 7, God will do the rest. But we have to know the truth from the false. When we do step 4, it's to understand and look at the past, not glare at it. People always say they want to feel their emotions. I don't want to feel my anger, fear, and being upset. The thing is, we have a way it would be cast out, step 5 says. And the same with our hunger and our feeling for compulsive overeating. We can't analyze it. We can't figure it out. We can't micromanage it with scales. We can to a certain degree. I don't want to stop people from having a certain food plan. But if that's the way you're going, if you have to weigh your food, you're still saying, I want that food. Where's the perception change there? If you go out in the world and you're resentful and angry and you're clenching your fists in your mouth and saying, I just can't say negative things towards these people, it's not going to work. Resentment's going to kill you. The way is the perception change when we talk about the sick man prayer in this book, or praying for the person. We can meet calamity with serenity, it says in this book. Calamity with serenity. So the same with the food. The more addictive, the more it has a hold on you, you can get close to these steps in this program. So anyway, because soon we're going to have other people share, and I just want to say that the whole thing comes down to this with the promises. And it says, I'll read a few sentences from the 10-step promises on page 84. So on the very bottom of page 84, it says everything that I was trying to tell during the whole discussion here. It's saying it, right? As we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, even food. So the main thing, the whole question you have to ask yourself, when you're your approach to the food, are you fighting it? That's the way it is. And what happens? It usually fails. It always does. I'd say, and the other 5% I say who achieve a diet, they say 5% of people who keep on a strict diet, they're miserable. They might as well go out and eat. I'm telling you, when people would come into AA, when I was in AA meetings, a guy came in and he didn't want to work the steps and program, but he's really miserable. You just say, maybe you should go out and have some more drugs or alcohol, whatever you take, because the solution is here. And this, doctor's opinion throughout, we agnostics, and these steps, and they're all about the steps, relates to that we can't control it. Step one, I always say to people, look, this program, sometimes I'll go to meetings and I'll hear people share and they're talking about their problems, but I was wondering, and this is after 10, 20, 30, 40 years, did they reach step one? And always the steps are in the front of the room where you can see them. But again, as I said, I went to meetings in the very beginning. It wasn't about the steps. It was about, I don't know, group therapy, something like that. So it says, we admitted we were powerless over food, alcohol. Food and Overeaters Anonymous, they use the word food, lives become unmanageable. On page 25, about that spiritual solution, that reawakening. And again, during the meeting here, you can have that change of thinking, that whole process where you look at the food differently. This is the spiritual awakening. Because what happened was we had just the opposite. The devil, if you want to call the food companies the devil, go ahead. Or the advertisement and everything. And we had the spiritual awakening, but with the devil. The bedevilments, right on page 52, it talks about what happens and how miserable we are. It actually tells you, I'm not going to say it now, but on page 52, what this addiction to drugs, alcohol, food, and also addicted to people, where it brings us. It brings us, and read page 52, the bedevilments. And also on page 151, it talks about, in a vision for you, the four horsemen. The four horsemen. But again, this book, we don't have to be miserable, upset, disturbed, all of that. We can be happy, joyous, and free. Okay, so let me read a few more sentences here about the solution right here. And it says, we will seldom be interested in food or liquor, because we have a better way now. If tempted, we recoil from it like a hot flame. So how do we recoil from it? Because it's not that important. Being outside, outdoors, and loving life. And a lot of people in a lot of religions say you get your nourishment from the sunlight comes in, your breathing. This is the real nourishment. And looking at nature. That's spiritual bread. Rather than being inside and closed and you're eating your food and you're isolated and you're miserable. Because we're making food a higher power. We're letting it dictate to us. It's controlling our lives. And people can, and other addictions, and whatever it is. Okay, we react sanely and normally. So I had to realize, here's the key here. But I didn't realize this. And the only way I got recovery was when do you believe that? Do you believe that you're insane, that your thinking is crazy? I had a guy who was at a meeting. He said the first thing when he wakes up and his first thought, he says to himself, can't believe that thought. Then he says, my second thought of the day, he says, I can't believe that either. When I started to realize my ego and self-centeredness was the way I was brought up as a child, and I started to take in what my parents said, or teachers in school, you had to have good grades, or play sports, or be with the in crowd. That desire, and it goes on in life, is a cause of all misery. We finally had to surrender. And when I surrendered, the whole world surrendered to me. Everything just came into place. Same with our addictions to food, compulsions, whatever compulsion we have. And it says here, we will find that it happened automatically. We will see that our new attitudes towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. Listen to this. That is a miracle. It's a miracle. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. Wow, think about that. We have not even sworn off diets and trying to control it, swearing it off. Well, below that it says, we react. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. So fit spiritual condition, let me end with this, is step 3, give our power and our lives over to a higher power, God of our understanding, and that's it. So when we're out of the self and out of the ego, that selfishness, self-centeredness, it talks about on page 62.